everyone. Welcome to Your Questions on Astrology Answered. I have 17 of your questions answered on this one video. I hope even if you didn't post these exact questions, you will find much to interest you here. But be aware there are many questions I'm still going to answer. So I can't pack them all in on the one video, so don't worry. Questions answered number 2 will be coming up very soon. If you are new to my channel, sub below, and don't forget to continue to post below if you have new questions about astrology. So my first question, everybody, is coming from Raphael H, who says, how accurate is astrology? Can it really predict the time of death of someone, as I once read? Very good question. Very good. And actually, that was the first question posted when I asked for questions. How wonderful is that? Because this is the crux of it all, isn't it? This is the basis. If astrology isn't accurate, what's the point? Why are we wasting our time? Of course, every astrologer is going to say, oh, yeah, it's 100% accurate. But they're not being true. Let me tell you the truth of it. Astrology is only as accurate as the tools you have. What astrology are you talking about is the question when you want to know about accuracy. Okay? And I'm not being prejudiced towards Vedic. I've studied Western and Vedic, and there are other astrologies. There's a Jewish astrology, Islam astrology, there's a Aztec astrology, actually Chinese astrology. There's so many ways of using knowledge in astrology. But the accuracy will depend on the tools you have. And if you don't have the tools, you can't be accurate. So astrology is accurate. It's an ancient science, and it's coming from, as I believe, billions of years ago. It's not even coming from this solar system. It's coming from other parts of the spectrum of existence. It's a science of light. It's actually Jyotish. It's pure. It's 100% accurate. The problem is, everybody, astrologers are not. That's the rub, yeah? Astrology is perfect and pure, but astrologers, particularly in this age of Kali, are definitely not accurate because astrologers are human. Astrologers make mistakes. So it's not the astrology. It's the astrologer very often, or they've got the wrong astrology. They haven't got the techniques, so they cannot make predictions. So the next part of the question is, can astrology predict death? Of course it can. What sort of astrology can't predict the end of something? You're looking at the beginning of something in a moment of time. Everything that has a beginning has an end. If you are seeing all the Mahadashas through life, if you are seeing all of the different aspects happening to this person through their life, you must see the end of their karmas. You see the unfoldment of their karmas. You can see the end of the unfoldment in terms of moving to another body. Absolutely. You see the beginning of the body, you see the end of the body. And any astrology who says you can't predict death has the wrong astrology. Go to a Western astrologer and ask them, when am I going to die? They'll freak out in front of you. I would. I mean, when I was doing Western astrology, I would say, oh my God, are you depressed? Why do you want to know these things? Because the Western system is based on the individualistic culture of the West, which has no knowledge of reincarnation, hasn't got the spiritual backbone. So it cannot deal with it. But here's the rub again. Have they even got the tools to do it? No, they haven't. I can't see any tools. Having studied Western astrology for so long, everybody, I can't see one tool in there. Pluto square your moon won't do it. Sun conjunct something in a sun progression won't necessarily do it either. You have to have the sidereal zodiac. You have to have the tool. You have to have the Marika planets. And there is more than even Marika planets to predicting death. It isn't that difficult. There are techniques. It does exist in the Vedic system. If you go to a village astrologer in India, they won't have any scruples at all about telling you when you're going to die. It's the first thing they will want to tell you. They think they're being helpful and kind to you. And as a Westerner, we're all freaking out on the spot. When I was in India, when I was 30, and my friends went to see a Vedic astrology, I was like, no, I don't want to go. They'll tell me when I'm going to die. They'll tell me the worst possible scenarios because I knew as a Western astrologer at that point that they would do that. And it's not, and that's what some people don't like about Vedic astrology from the West. They think it's really harsh, I'm going to tell you. But no, they're just telling you what's really going on. If it's going to rain, don't you want to know? If it's going to hail, don't you want to know? Oh no, I want to live in a sunny place. Well, sorry, it's going to rain. So basically, everybody, the answer is yes. Astrology with the right tools can predict death. The other side of it is, should we do it? Is it moral to do it? I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. Have a check on my channel when Boris Johnson got sick and I freaked out, worried about the guy, got up in the middle of the night and checked all his Marika planets. And it's true. I was not surprised to find that he was in 2 Marika bhuktis at that time. See, and he's still in that. He's not well. Doesn't mean he's going to die. Not at all. Doesn't mean that. But it does mean death-like circumstances. And he's definitely had that. So astrology can predict death. And if it says it can't, then it's not real astrology. So MC has a question about transitioning from Western to Vedic astrology. They say they are finding it hard to focus. Which charts are essential to use? This is a superb question, isn't it? Because I've made that transition as you talk about MC. And, it's an incredible transition in some ways, but I did it bit by bit, so slowly that it didn't really seem to be too much. So that's the key. You've got to be slow about it. But let me tell you something about this so-called transition. You're not leaving the Western system behind. Don't do that. There are some good techniques there that you never want to lose. There is only one astrology. I've just discussed that on the post before when I was talking about how Western astrology doesn't have all of the tools. You see, why are you going to Vedic? Why not just stay with Western? Aren't you happy with it? Isn't it good? It's not good enough because you haven't got the tools necessary. So Western astrology is the tip of the iceberg. Think of astrology like an iceberg in the ocean. It's a very good analogy. Astrology is a big iceberg in the middle of the ocean, and as you're sailing up, you just see this little tiny tip of the iceberg, a little block of ice just sitting on the surface. Oh, it doesn't seem anything to worry about, yeah? But what you don't know is under the surface is the whole big part of the iceberg, the real iceberg. Now that is the real astrology. So Western astrology is the tip of the iceberg of astrology. So without the rest of the iceberg, which is hidden to the Western system, you just can't do so much. So to find your destiny, to find who you are, to find your karmas, to find so much, you need the Vedic techniques. Yes, you're doing a good thing, but don't lose the tip of the iceberg. It's got some good stuff in it, but over thousands of years, Western astrology has lost so many beautiful tools, and it's become limited. And so what they've actually done, by the way, is they've spread out in a way that they've made everything linear rather than going deep. We often talk of the ocean of Jyotish, how deep it is, how we're just putting our little finger, little toe in the wave of the ocean, and that is definitely what we're doing in Kali Yuga, because the ocean is so deep. It's the whole mystery of life is in Jyotish. It's the key. It's the key to life and to your karmas and to your purpose in this material realm, and indeed to your spiritual purpose too. There is no limit to what you can find out when you dig into Jyotish. But let's not get too scary, because that's exactly why you are becoming confused, isn't it? Because it's so much. It's just like, whoa, this stuff is good, but wow, where do I start? It's a mess. It seems a mess because Western is so simple. But can I just put this to you? Haven't you noticed how the Western system is becoming a bit messy now? When I used to do, the Western chart, it stopped at Pluto. I think Chiron might have just arrived, but I didn't bother with that stuff, But I just went to Pluto. That was enough. I just knew this isn't good bringing in all these new things, the wounded healer and all this. So now I looked up some Western charts recently. I was like I was looking at a pizza, because it's got all these little bobs in it, little bits in it There are all these rocks in space that are floating around. I don't know what they are. It doesn't really matter what they are. You see, what they're doing is they lack the depth and they know it and they're adding the breadth. But the breadth is just confusing. So the actual Western astrology chart now is a mess. So come to Vedic. It's simpler. You just need to know where to focus, and I'm going to help you. So, very good question. First thing that you do is you get your birth chart, your natal chart, your D1 as we call it in the Vedic system, and you have a complete Vedic chart written any way you want to do it. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can even use a circle thing. You don't have to go for the diamond chart, the little square chart, the South Indian chart, North Indian chart. You don't even need that. You can just use one of these. One of these here on the page. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Use one of these Western charts, but make sure that you've got a sidereal zodiac. So here is ascendant, here is a descendant, here's 10th house, here's your 4th house. That's a Western system. Use it. Draw the chart, but get rid of that tropical zodiac and get the proper true zodiac. So that's your first step. Get to know your real rising sign, because that may change. Get to know what your house cusps are, what the lords are. Get to know what the Vedic planets are. What is the sun? Who is Ravi? Who is he? What does he represent? Who is Moon? And get to know the names, sort of Buddha, Chandra. Get into the Vedic beauty of it all with your D1 chart. It's all you need. Just have it in a sidereal zodiac. Go into the nakshastras, discover the beauty. Go into the Mahadashsa, see how your life has panned out. Has it been accurate? You bet it has been, yeah? Look at your transits. Get to know Sadi Sati. Get to know about Saturn to the moon. Lots of things are actually on my channel to help you with that. So just need the one chart to start off with, because after all, that's what you've been working with before. Then, once you've done all of that and really dug deep, go into your moon chart. Get your moon in the Lagna, ascendant. Put all the same planets in, but, judge that chart. Where's the Maraka planets? What's the 2nd house lord, 7th house lord in there as well? Judge everything. Judge your Mahadashsa from your moon chart. Then move on to your sun chart. Okay? So what you're actually doing is you're not bothering with the D9, the Varga charts. Don't go into that. Just get your birth chart, start with that. Get the moon chart, get the sun chart, go deep into that. Get to grips with the Vedic system, get to grips with the actual, get to grips with, please, Rahu and Ketu, by the way. I don't even think about going into any Varga charts until you've understood what is the North Node Rahu. Because the Western system, I'm sorry to say, has a bad understanding of Rahu, has a bad understanding of Ketu. They've got some stuff right. They understand that we are moving towards Rahu and we're leaving behind Ketu. But I read one, I'm going a little bit off here, but I wanted just to help you with this. I read one Western astrologer who wrote a beautiful little book. I'm not going to name her, but it was 1980s. And she said this. She said, Rahu... Oh, no, she didn't call it Rahu, sorry. She said, the North Node is like blueberry jam, and it's good for you. And now that I've come to the Vedic system, I've never heard of such a thing. Rahu compared to blueberry jam. Rahu will be thrilled. Ha ha! They think I'm blueberry jam. I'll show them. Come and taste blueberry jam. Yeah. Sorry, everybody, getting a bit carried away, but I'm glad you've come to Vedic. I'm happy for you. You're going to find the truth of your life. But start slowly, please. Get your D1 chart, get your moon chart, and get your sun, and then dig deep. And then, when you are ready, go for the D9 only and go from there. Okay, good luck to you. Guy has a good question. What shows longevity in a chart? Well, it's the 8th house. You want a strong and unafflicted 8th house. What makes the 8th house strong? Saturn. Saturn can help. Saturn looking at the 8th house, aspecting 8th house, destroys 8th house factors like sudden events, long-term illness, and that just destroys it. Saturn in the 8th house is more challenging because Saturn can give difficulties, can give things happening, can give ill health. Okay, sometimes, I mean, I'm just saying in general here because you have to look at aspects of Saturn, sign of Saturn. You know all this, but I'm just giving you answers to your specific question here. So the 8th house is the absolute answer. You want a strong, unafflicted 8th house. But here's something else. Saturn will show you longevity. Saturn and indeed actually Rahu, those two malefics who are very similar, they have got a lot to say about how long you'll stay here. Saturn wants to keep you here because you have karmas to burn, and so does Rahu. So Saturn on your ascendant can give you long life, maybe give you illness, maybe a lot of sickness sometimes, but long life. Saturn 7th house, long life, maybe relationship problems, maybe some loneliness until you find your soulmate, maybe some real challenges there, but my goodness, long life as well, because he's aspecting Ascendant directly. Okay, so yes, Saturn wants to keep you here, so a very strong Saturn aspecting Ascendant, long life. But you see, then you got to have factors which challenge that, like maybe a Jupiter aspect. You see, when you've got an ill-placed guru, let's say you've got Jupiter in your 6th house, Jupiter is going to increase all of those health issues, going to decrease your life in that way, maybe, unless there is some saving grace. So the bottom line is strength of Saturn, strength of Rahu in the 6th house gets rid of all your illnesses, will keep you here for a very long time. But by the way, everybody, it's important to say what is longevity. You can live until you're 99, but you have a lot of difficulties as well. So don't forget, that is actually why it's the malefics that are keeping you here. I'm not saying that we don't want a long life, but yeah, that's the answer. Strong Saturn, strong Rahu, strong 8th house, you can live a long time. So Tuba Mahut has a very beautiful question. Do we have free will? Or is our chart absolutely fated? Can we change it or not? Plus, law of attraction, does it work? This is very important. Now, I'm going to tell you from a scientific point of view about free will because I was teaching science before, so I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm going to tell you about an experiment in science that shows us conclusively that you are not in control of any decision which you make at all. It's very scary, it's very real, it's a very valid, highly scientific, replicated experiment, and it's well known, but people don't like to think about it very much, and it shows that we are basically just like a robot in this material body. So, first of all, do we have free will, Tuba? Do we have it in any case? And of course, the absolute scientific answer is no. We can't, because every scientist knows we are in a causal universe. Every single thing has a cause before it. Everything is determined by something else. At the larger level, at the even smaller level, you get up in the morning and say, can I have a cup of coffee? And you want to have a cup of coffee. You think you've made a decision to have a cup of coffee, have you? No, you haven't, because you are in the habit of having cups of coffee. You've learned to like it because of many other circumstances. You only like that particular sort of a beverage because you've had it before. And who was in control of you ever seeing a coffee? Because you are sort of born in a country with a coffee at a time when coffee exists. I could go so deep with it, yeah? But you are not in control of that. There are many other factors in control of your apparent decision to have a cup of coffee. And science has shown that this is a really scary bit, guys. Science has shown conclusively that your brain has made a decision for you to have that cup of coffee in any case at least 20 seconds before you ever even thought about it. So I'll discuss that experiment with you in a few minutes, okay, just a minute or two. Let me keep to this actual question posted by Tuba here. So no, we don't have free will in the actual way that you think that we all think that we do, okay? We all feel it. We all feel we've got free will. Science has also talked about that. You feel you have it because it makes you feel better, makes you feel in control, but they have shown, as I'm going to show you, that you do not. But this is in the Vedas. It's in the actual Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says we are seated on a machine of the material body, but we are just seated on it. You as a spirit soul are just going for a joyride in your body. You as a conscious soul, a pure being, are not having anything to do with the decisions of the body. And that's what the Supreme Lord says, Krishna. He says the actual machine of your material body is controlled by the modes of nature. Modes of nature means DNA, exactly what scientists have now found. So you might say, well, did we ever have any free will? And according to the actual Vedic understanding, yes, you did. In a billion, 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 a trillion, 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 cannot go back in time far enough to our brains would explode at the beginning of the whole material manifestation, or one of the material manifestations, when you made a decision to come into this material world. So in a very deep philosophical way you did, but then as soon as you are acting in the material nature, you have a decision, cause and effect, and you are on the wheel of karma then. Do you get it? You're on the wheel of karma and you can't get off until you get Moksha. And I've got a very good question on the video. Someone's asked about Moksha and how you can see it in your chart. So, Tuba, the answer is we don't have free will, and our chart is, if you like, fated because of our karmas. Our karmas make up our material body. If those karmas in your chart were to be completely removed, then for every one of us, we would just drop dead because our body is existing because of our karmas, because of what we have to do and have to not do. Okay, so it's a very, very, very deep thing. But don't be afraid of your chart because of this. It's a good thing to understand that things are going to unfold as they are meant to, but you can take shelter of God. That's what God tells you to do. That's what God says. Take shelter of me and I will protect you from all of these reactions, all of these karmas. So if you take shelter of God, he can mitigate it. Only the Supreme has the power to mitigate it. Don't forget, what do they say? Not a blade of grass can move without Lord Vishnu knows of it. So there it is. We have to surrender to God. That is the only way. And everything else is complete Maya, including the law of attraction. Isn't it great, the law of attraction, guys? I'm going to walk around saying, oh, I feel so rich. I feel so rich. I am in my big new house. I have got my beautiful kitties. I have got my PhD. Da, 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 da. I feel it. I've got it. It's real. And you go on and on like this. And eventually, I got it. It's because the law of attraction worked. No, it's because that was your karma to get that. And it was part of your decision, if you like. No, I've used the word decision. Sorry. It was part of your personality to be interested in the law of attraction. People have got PhDs and beautiful houses and beautiful cars without going around chanting that they're going to, they are positive thinkers and all that, okay? It's not coming from your mind. It's coming from your deeds. The law of attraction is a form of Maya. Whatever you get, you've only got because of your deeds. If you're born beautiful, you were patient in a past life, according to the Vedic understanding. It's also in the Buddhist, scriptures, yeah? Exactly what is going to get you what. So if you are very rich now, or you have the karma to become rich by your own effort, that is due to your charity at some lifetime. So the law of attraction is a form of Maya, and just like Maya, it's very attractive, and we like it. We like the idea of being in control. Just by my mind, I can get what I want. No, you get what you want by your deeds, not by your mind, guys. That's the truth of it. So these brain decision experiments are very famous in science, and I will write below the references if you want them. what they did was they actually got people into the lab and they said simply, could you please decide to press a button for me with your left hand or your right hand? You decide. And they have all of the brains wired up onto machines. They can see what's going on. And every single time, mostly around 10 seconds, but sometimes extremely more seconds than that, they could see the brain had made a decision by the actual brain activity, left or right, what that person would say. So the scientists could see in the brain, seconds before they said, I've now made a decision, what decision they were going to make. And it was always the same thing. If the brain said it would be the right, the person said the right, seconds before their brain had made the decision. And you know, in the 1960s, when the first time this was ever done, the experimenter went outside the lab and he wept. He said, I put my head into my hand and I wept with what I have found out about the human situation. But we don't need to weep because we've got the Vedic interpretation in the Bhagavad Gita. We know that's what's really going on. So thank you, Tuba, for that good opportunity so we can all understand free will, what it is, and that we cannot change our fated karma, but we can get mitigation from turning to God. Absolutely. So the Bhava Chalit chart and Mahadashsa, let me just tell you, Bhava Chalit is the unequal house system used when you have the top of your chart as the highest point in the sky when you were born. So it shifts into an unequal house system, a bit like many of the Western, charts. And it's very good for Mahadashsa in some way. So I have a question here from Fly High who says, do you also check Bhava Chalit house to judge Dasha and Tradasha results? And then they have an example of their planet, their Mahadasha planet, going into their 9th house in the Bhava Chalit chart when it was in their 10th house in their D1. And yes, absolutely you do. And different astrologers are going to tell you different weightings of this. I've heard, well, it's going to be 20% of your Mahadasha, this 9th house now, for you, in your case, move from your 10th into your 9th. And others say, no, it's going to be half of it. There is no exact thing. I've seen it work. I've seen in my own Mahadasha, when I use Bhava Chalit chart, a small amount of that Mahadasha could be accounted for that change in that planet having moved to a different house, but not all of it. The actual birth chart, the actual equal house system, the sign for a house system works perfectly. That will still be absolutely there. But I would use Bhava Chalit as long as you're cautious about it. It will be very, very good. It will definitely help you get accurate Dasha result. So a question now about the tropical and sidereal zodiac systems put together by some astrologers, particularly very famous astrologers now on YouTube even. I've got to be careful here, haven't I, guys? But I'm going to answer this really good question by Fabiola. Fabiola says, what do you think about Ernst Wilhelm's new wave of tropical sidereal astrology? Are there any astrologers whose methods you appreciate, sidereal or tropical? Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to have to be really careful how I answer this, aren't I? I've got so much Aries in my chart. I'm going to have to really watch it. Sidereal Aries, guys. I'm going to have to watch it. Don't put my foot in it here. Right. This system is actually not a bona fide system, but it's Kali Yuga and it's amazing what comes to the fore in Kali, isn't it? And can be made to work. But does it work? And what do I think about it? I'm going to be honest. What they're doing is this. They've got a tropical chart. That's a Western zodiac with an ecliptic chart, okay? Not a really fixed sign zodiac. They've dumped that in the bin. But what they've kept are the nakshastras. So the actual sign of, let's say, Taurus does not match up with the nakshastras of Taurus. The actual sign of Leo does not match up with the nakshastras of Leo and so on. It's out of key And the whole prediction, particularly Mahadasha, is out. How do I know? Because I've had a reading from one of these astrologers. Now, let me tell you, it's not Ernst Wilhelm. Ernst Wilhelm is a lovely guy. I'm going to just say he's just a lovely human being, a very, very good astrologer in so many ways and so much depth about him. I appreciate his knowledge in terms of astrology, but not in terms of this system. So when I had this reading from this unnamed astrologer who uses this system, I could see when I was having the reading, no, this isn't right for me. But I didn't say anything, I let them continue on. And when it came to the Mahadasha readings, oh my goodness, you see, I've lived long enough, way long enough to see so many Mahadashas, and I have an accurate account of my life. And it was just out. It was it was not accurate for when Mahadasha began and it ended. You can do any interpretation of the Mahadasha. That won't alter. Rahu will always be Rahu. Mars will always be Mars, and Gemini sign is always Gemini if you've got it in the right zodiac, I guess. But the Mahadashas were out. The prediction timing was out. So that's what's going to happen if you have a reading with this. You won't get the right prediction. But if you're young, you won't know that, will you? Because you haven't lived long enough to see that in perspective. So that's the honest truth. It can't work because the Mahadashas are not accurate. And you see, this is the whole concern of Western versus Vedic, isn't it? You see, I think you would be far better going to see a Western astrologer than to have this reading, because you could get all of that Uranus, Neptune, Pluto stuff, all the transits, and they would definitely work for you. There would be no inaccuracy, okay? Because when you've got your Western chart compared to your Vedic chart, they will absolutely work the same. Why? Because the planets are in the same position. If you've got Sun conjunct Jupiter, it will be Sun conjunct Jupiter if it's Western or Vedic or this system. Sun will always be conjunct to Jupiter, right? So they do not change. But the signs change, the lords of the houses change, the Mahadashas change, and it's not accurate. It's only when you're a lot older like myself and you've been through a lot of astrology charts and you know what you're seeing that you know the truth. But this is not to have any negative thing. As I say, Ernst Wilhelm's a lovely guy, but I have to tell you my truth of it. It's not a true system of prediction. Sorry, I've got to say that. But I'm not saying that it can't be made to work in some way. And if you ask Ernst why he's doing it, he will give the most brilliant rationale. He's very intelligent. He will give a brilliant rationale that you will find it very hard to argue against it. But you have to go with experience of life, right? You have to go with what's actually happened in your life. The sidereal system gives me the truth. This mismatch does not. So that's my final answer there. What astrologers do I admire? Pandit Sanjay Rath. He is my Guruji, if you like, although not formally so, but every time I listen to him, I gain the most astounding and true knowledge. I haven't stopped learning from him. I just, he has told me such accuracy about my life that was startling, that I didn't want to hear. I didn't want to hear it. I said, no, it can't be true, but it was true. Everything that he says is coming from the true Vedic understanding. So if you really want to learn Vedic astrology, Pandit Sanjay Rath is alive today. We are so lucky. Go learn from him. That's all I can say. And there is another astrologer, Sam Gepi. He's very good. He's got a very straight style, Sam, and he's using the original system, and that's good. A question from Joe. Does Saturn cancel out Jupiter's blessings when they are exactly conjunct in the same degree? And you actually say in Capricorn. So I'm taking it that you don't mean the current actual Jupiter-Saturn Capricorn conjunction, because that's a different question that somebody else has asked. I'm going to answer that too. Well, if Saturn and Jupiter are exactly on the same degree, you could say, does actually Jupiter cancel out Saturn's blessing? Because Saturn is strong in Capricorn and now Jupiter's in there. Saturn doesn't like anybody just get, Saturn likes to be alone. Saturn's a loner. Saturn likes to be alone. And his friend is not particularly Jupiter. Venus is his friend. He's not too happy having Jupiter there. So what about Saturn's blessings in Capricorn? Yeah? So don't let's think that Saturn hasn't got any blessings. It's a two-way street. The answer, Joe, is no. Nothing is cancelled. It's just added to. Really, you've got Jupiter in Capricorn. It's got a certain amount of karma. Jupiter, don't forget, is debilitated anyway there, and Saturn is very, very strong. So Saturn is predominant in that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction you're talking about in Capricorn in any case. Okay? So Jupiter is a little bit not himself there, but his blessings in terms of where he is in your Bhava charts, etc., etc. Please look in your D9 chart to get accurate information here, are not cancelled out. Saturn is just adding another flavor to it. So no, there is never a cancelling out of anything by any other graha. It's just adding always. By the way, can I just say that Saturn and Jupiter are hugely good for finance in that actual sign as well. Many people who get mega bucks, I've seen charts with Saturn, Jupiter conjunct, billionaires, millionaires, it's very common. It can give you a great wealth in life, by the way, Saturn, Jupiter in that Capricorn. So that's another factor. So there's no cancelling out. But if what you mean is spiritual factors, I don't know whether you mean that, then yes, Saturn is going to give a little bit of difficulty spiritually here. Saturn and Jupiter conjunct in Capricorn is going to be a bit difficult for the spiritual aspects of Jupiter because of Saturn's complete dominance here. So it can absolutely give a to and fro. I find people who have Saturn conjunct Jupiter, they're toing and froing all the time. They're all for this and then they're all for something else, yeah? They can't always go forward in a very consistent way. They are full of religious doubt. One thing I've seen definitely, Saturn conjunct Jupiter in Capricorn gives a real doubt about religion. Sometimes they're all for it and sometimes they doubt everything. But has that cancelled out Jupiter's blessings? If you think that is doing it, then you could say, yeah, in some sense, but not really, because you'll get the karmas that Jupiter wants to bring you. It may give you great wealth, as I've just said. It depends what you mean by the blessings. So if it gives you a bit of, religious doubt, well, that's a problem, but you can overcome it. But don't forget, look at your D9 Jupiter. Whatever karmas you've got are not cancelled out by any other planet at any time. You've got those blessings, they're still there. Very good question from Tina. What to do about inaccurate birth time and ascendant? Tina says, should you use Moon Lagna instead? Now, I haven't got Tina's exact wording here, but I know that she said sometimes birth certificates cannot be actually trusted. And it would say 5 or 10 minutes even, and it's a new ascendant coming up, like it's maybe going from Pisces to Aries or whatever. What do you do? Should you forget about ascendant and just have moon chart instead? Well, first of all, let me tell you about accurate birth time. I talked to a nurse once about this. If you have, any of you, got a hospital record, it's probably accurate. Go with it, okay? These are medical records. They will not be inaccurate. Go with it. I'm lucky to have that. If you've got a birth certificate time, go with that too. don't angst about it too much. But as you say, Tina, if it's right on that 29 degrees of some sign, it's a little bit worrying, isn't it? But I promise you, by the time you've lived about 10 to 20 years doing astrology, you'll know what ascendant you are. And if you study astrology, you can have no doubt. I mean, a Taurus ascendant person is different to a Gemini ascendant. You will know which it is if it's you. If it's somebody else's chart, that's a real problem. Yeah, that's a different problem. So, should you just use moon chart in these cases? Yes, because it isn't about instead. Everybody should use moon chart. Even if you've got accurate birth time, you should always have your moon chart. I use my moon chart as much as my Lagna chart and my sun chart as well. Don't forget the sun is a Lagna as well. And also, please remember, some people don't even have a moon chart because they don't know what time of day they were born and the moon has changed sign. Moon changes signs a few days every week. So if you are unfortunate not to know what time of day you were born even, you probably haven't even got a moon chart. And actually, to make it really horrendous, there are some people, it's very unfortunate. If you know anybody, please post below. But some people don't even have their sun chart. So they don't know what time they were born. They've no ascendant chart. The moon changed signs on that day. They've no moon chart. And the sun changed signs as well. Can you imagine? They've no chart at all. So when you put it in that perspective, not having ascendant chart for absolute certain, you're not missing out with the moon chart. You can do everything with that moon chart and the sun chart that you would do with the ascendant bar Varga charts, okay? But actually, you can try to get a D9 from that time and see what you think about it, okay? But absolutely, yes. It's far better to dig deep into your moon chart and your sun chart. Really use all of those Modica planets, second house, seventh house. Use everything in that chart. Dig deep. Go into all the degrees, all the tithis, go into all the aspects, get all those yogas going for you. Use everything that you can grasp. You're not missing out, absolutely. So, a very interesting question from Cyril Narayan, who said, what placements indicate that someone might be a healer? This is very interesting. Well, the number one thing about healing is that healing for any disease or for anything at all to do with making somebody whole in this world comes from the sun. It comes from Ravi, Surya. So basically, you're looking for a strong sun. More than anything else, you want a strong sun. Doesn't have to be sun in Aries, sun in Leo, but that helps. I know a healer with a sun in Leo. She does Reiki, hands-on healing. She has sun in Leo. Okay, it's a bit of an afflicted sun, actually, so she hasn't continued with it, but she did do it for some time. So wanting to heal, you've got to have that sun energy coming from you. The sun is that power to heal. You are having to give energy out. If your sun is weak, you can't give out the energy. Okay, if your sun is deeply afflicted, but you might want to do it. Okay, so sun is very important. But what sort of healer? That's the thing, isn't it? Moon is a healing planet too. Moon in a nakshatra like Revati is a very good healing for a counselor, a therapist. I don't know what actually healing means here, okay, but I presume you mean like hands-on healing. But it could be somebody who's a good therapist, a good counselor. That can be healing. It could be a medical doctor, a surgeon. If you've got the sun in a very strong placement in, with Mars, in like even in a nakshatra which is ruled by the sun itself and makes it, strong, maybe, let me think, maybe Kritika nakshatra ruled by sun, which actually is the knife itself. Wow, you may be a really good surgeon. So What you're looking for is the strength of the sun, and this is in the D1. You don't need to go digging into the D10 and all of that. Forget that. It has to be there in the actual chart itself, okay? And what else I would say is there are all sorts of healers, as I say. So, sun healer is a hands on healer giving energy out. Moon healer is through the mind, like a therapist. As I say, moon in something like Revity is superb for healing people through therapy, counseling. A very strong Mercury can heal with knowledge, and the same for Jupiter, a very good spiritual healer, a teacher, because there are so many ways to make people whole. And don't forget Venus, Sukra, healing with actual massage, a physical healer too. So there are many healers, but more than anything, you need a strong sun. Darakarka and spouse. I've had 2 questions on this. Somebody's deleted the question, so I can't read it. But somebody else said definitely, Jayanthi says, what if a female has Jupiter Darakarka, and she gives some details about her particular chart. I suppose I can't read chart, but I can tell you about Jupiter Darakarka. So Darakarka, what does it tell you about spouse? Did it show you when you're going to meet your spouse? Yes, Darakarka Mahadasha, Darakarka Bhukti definitely can, and I've seen it, bring spouse or at least partner into your life. But it's not the only factor by far. You've got to look at 7th house Lord and so many things, okay? And of course, D9, definitely D9 Ascendant is very important for spouse. So, what will Darakarka tell you? Let's just go through all of the grahas because somebody's asked about Jupiter. So Jupiter Darakarka, you're looking for intelligent spouse with spiritual knowledge, definitely. Won't be happy if they do not have that. Sun Darakarka, you want an absolute authority spouse, someone who has status in the world. Moon Darakarka, you're looking for a caring, motherly spouse, even if they are male. A sociable spouse, a family orientated spouse. Mercury Darakarka, you are looking for, again, intelligent spouse, but a playful spouse, an interesting spouse, someone who likes to maybe, to move around a lot, to travel a lot, that you can have a very interesting time with. And you don't want somebody boring, definitely. Venus Darakarka, a very sensual, beautiful spouse, is your ideal most surely, and probably someone who's a very skilled person as well. Mars Darakarka, an active spouse and a very assertive spouse, is very important to you. Now, you could also have, I've missed Saturn. Oh my goodness. Saturn as Darakarka. Saturn, you want an older spouse probably, or at the very least, a very serious, spouse. Maybe like a business orientated spouse, but a very serious, regular spouse who gets on with life and is reliable. You're definitely looking for that. Rahu can be Darakarka by some systems. You may not follow that. I'll have to do a whole video on this and explain to you why it can be. So if you follow that system, then if you have Rahu, not Ketu is never going to be, one of the Kartikas, but if you have Rahu, head of the snake, as your Darakarka, foreign spouse, interesting spouse from a completely different culture. Good general question here from Nishan Goyal. Does an exalted retrograde planet lose its exaltation and become debilitated? So this is one of those general rules in astrology, and source of these rules is always difficult. Is it in actual Parashara? I haven't got all those slokas to hand, but I've actually seen this, yes. And what it's all about, though, is that you can't judge it on its own. You absolutely can't say, this is now not a useful graha for me. You have to look in D9, you have to go into other charts. You just can't say, oh, this is finished now. My my exalted Venus in Pisces is now debilitated because it's retrograde, or my Saturn in Libra is now finished. And a very good example, by the way, though, of how there is a difficulty here, and it definitely can affect exaltation, is Marilyn Monroe's chart. I just posted Saturn return video last week, and I didn't want to talk about her Saturn fourth house Libra retrograde as an issue because that wasn't the focus of my video. It was just what happened to her during her Saturn return. And she had loads of good stuff happening, which we could read from her chart as I was showing you how to read Saturn return. That was the purpose of the video. But if you want to read it as an exalted Saturn retrograde in her fourth house, wow, yes, because she had great difficulties in her childhood, as I have discussed on that video. Actually, I briefly talked about it. I'm not going to say now really, but yeah, she did experience a great difficulty. Don't forget, it was also at Mahadashsa, many factors there. But yes, it didn't give her the good. Saturn Libra often is good for relationships, but in the fourth house retrograde, she didn't have successful relationships. But she had lots of relationships. She had 3 marriages, but they didn't go well for her. Okay, and it's her Atmakarika. It's her soul planet. Lots to say there. So I would say absolutely this can be a factor. Yes, but you need to judge whole charts, particularly you want to get that planet in the D9 and study it in depth. So Fly Butterfly 15 says, can you talk about Ketu Mahadasha? How can we deal with it? And so on. And not the only person to ask about Ketu Mahadasha. So guys, I have a video coming up on all Mahadasha planets. It's in the pipeline. It's the next in my series. Okay, so that will be Mahadasha video 4 coming up. Okay, and we'll definitely be talking about Rahu and Ketu Mahadasha big time. So here I will just talk about a few secrets that I have personally found that you may not know about enough. Ketu Mahadasha is going to take you back into your past life, number 1, definitely, most definitely. Now, if you want to find out more about what Ketu is for you, where you've been, have a check on my video. I've got a whole playlist there about Ketu in the houses. It's very important to know about that dynamic. It's going to come to the fore mega time in your Ketu Mahadasha. You'll be pulled into all those habits I've discussed on that video, big time. You will be absolutely pulled into those situations helplessly. But it's not so bad because look, I'll tell you one important thing happens. Big secret this. Well, it mightn't be such a big secret, I don't know, but I have found it happen and it's really big. You know, you will go to the places you lived before. So on this earth as a human being, as a human, where you have lived before, you will go there. And when you actually go there, you will have this amazing deja vu. Now, this is something that people have talked about. Ketu Mahadasha physically drags you back into the circumstances of your last human birth. So wherever you are during Ketu Mahadasha, again, if you are a very old person like 80s, 90s, and you're not mobile, well, it may be slightly different, but definitely you will go to a place that you have lived before as a human being, obviously, and you will get that definite feeling of, wow, I know this place, a real blissful feeling, you know? Now, according to what happened to you there can be mixed feelings, okay? It's not always going to be super blissful, but there's a real deja vu. For most people, it's a deep reconnection, which makes you just absolutely even want to relocate. So be careful about anywhere where you need to relocate. If you get a real feeling of, I've got to be in this place, you become obsessed with it, be sure if it's your Ketu Mahadasha, that is a past life situation and it may not work for you in this lifetime. I've seen this, but some people have like very strong Ketu, maybe like a Jupiter thing with or a fourth house lord with Ketu, or 12th house with Ketu, foreign lands and so on. And they do relocate for a short time, but Ketu won't let you stay in the past, but he will show you the past. And definitely Ketu Mahadasha will give you some really almost blissful experiences of reconnection with your past life. That's the first thing. Now, Ketu will also show you past talents, who you were before, what skills you've got from the past. I've had this happen to myself when I started astrology in my Ketu Mahadasha. Many things can happen. Spiritual things happen to people. People have talked about this, how they reconnect to their spiritual path. At least they find it, even if they can't start it properly. K2 makes it difficult to really dig deep and start something. Even spiritual things, it makes it really difficult. But you'll be shown the path, because K2's so choppy in Mahadasha, everyone. Why? Because the bhuktis are changing so quickly. And as soon as somebody new comes, they've gone. You start a new job and then, no, I don't want it anymore. Yeah? So Ketu Mahadasha materially is very challenging. You know, Sun Mahadasha is a very short Mahadasha too, but I don't want to get diverted. But Ketu is definitely difficult. Sun is more focused, by the way, but Ketu is definitely unfocused, bringing you knowledge of who you were, though. And that is the blissful thing. So don't be afraid of it. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Spend time alone. Ketu will take you to isolated places. Ketu will make you meditate if you are so inclined. Ketu will show you ways to find out who you are, what you should do with your life. So you are blessed if you have a Ketu Mahadasha at a very early age, like I was. You know your past life. I found out. I don't want to go into it now, but I definitely knew past incarnation from a very young age. Many factors historically, many factors, okay, but you will find that too. And it's useful to know, because it gets you, when you get into sidereal astrology and you got your D60 chart, then it's useful. Okay, then you find out definitely. So one thing I have definitely seen too, and again, I can't check with so many charts because not enough people have an accurate time of birth. But if you have an accurate time of birth, I promise you, K2 in your D60, that will happen to you. That house will become a mega factor. Not always easy. I mean, it's probably going to be very difficult because, that is where you've got definite difficult karma that was a real struggle to you in that last incarnation. D60 chart, everybody, is your last human birth. That's it. So, yeah, it's going to come up again, Ketu Mahadasha. So there is struggle, there is material difficulty as you go from every bhukti, chopping and changing. But embrace the spiritual side, embrace the knowledge of who you are, find out the skills you have from your past life, and be happy to find them. There is much bliss in this Mahadasha. You have to go with it. I hope that was useful for now. Very good question from Dave Mann. Can you tell if someone will get Moksha, liberation? Well, yes, at least you can definitely see if they are absolutely going in that direction. Certainly you can see, and there are absolute techniques. I have to say that don't forget that liberation means that you've given up all attachment. You become disgusted with this material entanglement. So you need to have knowledge also to have that. But let's see what you should be looking for. Don't forget, though, the final decision is with God. This is not something which you can just say, oh, this person's going to get it, because you have to surrender. Anybody who gets liberation has come to the point of surrendering material desire. Material desire is the moon. So you have to look at their moon first of all. What's the moon doing? Is it a really strong moon? Is it afflicted? Has it got some deep karmas there, like Moon Rahu? That's quite heavy. Doesn't mean that you can't have liberation, but what is the struggle of this soul with the material entanglement? In the Bhagavad Gita, it says if you die and you go to the moon planet, you come back, because the moon is desire. So you have to finish desire. You have to have the seed of complete disgust with this material Maya, this complete dream. Okay? Nobody can become happy here. You have to understand that. You have to understand where you really belong. So, what's a sign in the birth chart? The fourth house, the eighth house, the 12th house. In your D1 and your D9, read both, please. If the Lord of the Ascendant in the D1 is in the fourth, eighth, or 12th house of the D1, or the Lord of the D9 is in the fourth, eighth, or 12th house of the D9, that person is fed up with material entanglement, definitely. They have the seed of disgust. They are going to be not satisfied with material enjoyment, and they will absolutely have a chance of Moksha liberation. You also want to look in the D60 chart, same way. This is a very special technique because the D60 is your last incarnation as a human being. So what did you do then? Lord of the D60, Lord of the Ascendant of the D60, in the 4th, 8th, or 12th of the D60, you almost got liberation last time. You almost got it, but you missed it. Now you're here again. You've woken up again in the Maya, and you probably feel it if you've got that D60. Oh no, I'm here again. So you've got a very good chance. If you missed it before, you've now got a chance. But there's more than that. Of course, you have to look to Ketu, because Ketu is how you have developed your soul. Look at the house position, even sign position. I haven't uploaded yet, but I've got all house positions clearly shown that Rahu is so important, because Rahu will try to stop you from gaining liberation sometimes, not always. In fact, Rahu can take you to liberation too. Don't forget, Rahu is already liberated. And I've started a whole new thing, haven't I? But you see, because when the nectar was stolen from the demigods in the churning of the ocean story, have a check of that. Well, who liberated Rahu? Vishnu, as Mohini, chopped off his head. So if anybody is killed by the Supreme, they are liberated. But because he drank the nectar, he had to continue. But he's already liberated, so he's ultimately a liberated being. They say that he is a Bhakta Rakshasa. Rahu is a Bhakta Rakshasa. If you are surrendered to God, he will help you. He will help you, not hinder you. Isn't that beautiful? So I hope that was useful to you. Now, I have a question from Heather Thomas, who said, I've heard that Saturn in the fifth is a karmic blessing according to Vedic astrologer. Is that true? Now, this is really not a general question, but I've allowed it through because I just want to talk about Saturn houses here and the idea that Saturn in the fifth is a karmic blessing. I haven't heard that. I don't know what astrologer told you that. But look, let's be real about this. Actually, if you want to know about what Saturn is in your fifth house, I've got a video on my channel. Please check out that. Let me know, Heather, what you think about my reading of Saturn in your fifth house. What it's all about, though, I just want to bring up this here about the fifth house. This is a reason I have decided to answer this for you. The fifth house is your past good karma. It's the good stuff, the knowledge you've gained, the blessings that are coming to you in this life. There are different people who interpret this differently. Ninth house is your past karma too, but it's a different, heavier karma, much heavier, much more dharmic that you have to fulfill. But the fifth house is giving you many blissful blessings, it's true. So that Saturn in the fifth is a karmic blessing. I have to be honest with you and say I haven't seen that. I haven't seen it as a particular karmic blessing. Maybe you can post more below what you were told about that, Heather, and we can have a discussion. But I personally haven't seen it. I've seen charts of people who've got Saturn in their fifth house. Definitely seen this. And It's not been a blessing to them in terms of their particular situation with children, with education. No, but that's their particular situation. Your Saturn may be a blessing to you, Heather. Check in your D9, you will get definite answer. Saturn should become in a stronger position in your D9. Saturn is strong in 7th house. Saturn is good in 6th house, 3rd house, 11th house. Although 3rd house has a bit of iffiness, but leave that to one side. So Saturn is a karmic blessing definitely in the 6th and the 11th house. And Saturn is strong in the 7th, but I haven't heard about this, so I'm just going to mention it now. I haven't heard this. I haven't seen this personally. Check where your Saturn is D9, please, for absolute answer here. 5th house is your past karma. Saturn here may make it difficult for you to access some of those good things. Okay, Saturn's going to make you a very serious person because Saturn as a whole, by the way, everybody, does not like to be in the sort of tricone house. So Saturn doesn't like the 5th, he doesn't like the 9th house because he's not that sort of a graha like Jupiter. He likes the Kendra houses, and particularly he's superb in the 3rd, 6th, 11th house. Carmen Kessing says, hello, how can one know one is meant to be an astrologer? Is Lord of the 10th in the 8th house enough of a signal? Great question. I'm going to tell you something about astrology. It's Mars. Mars rules astrology. Yes, this is a deep secret from the Vedic system. Mars is giving you the interest in astrology. So what you're actually looking for is a strong Mars by sign, especially having anything to do with Ketu, anything to do with, well, I could use every graha, but anything to do with Jupiter and Ketu, which give that knowledge. With Mars, you're gunning for astrology, okay? Because Mars is about using astrological knowledge. Where did I get this gem from? You probably guessed, Pandit Sanjay Rao. And when I checked it out in so many charts of astrologers, I saw this strong Mars thing. So you definitely have to look at Mars. Now, what you were talking about, the Lord of your 10th in the 8th, that's interesting because that gives you an absolute interest in secret knowledge. It could mean a change in your career, though, happens suddenly during your life. Watch out for that in that Mahadashsa. You didn't say what that actual Lord is, but that's good because I'm not doing chart readings, Carmen. So absolutely, you want to look at your Mars, and that's the same for everybody. Mars is the planet of astrology. But when we are concerned about the 8th house, this dog's going crazy now. Sorry, hold on. I've just moved. Actually, those dogs have made me think of Ketu. Yes. So when you're thinking about talent in occult knowledge, of which astrology is just one of those factors, you're so right. You want to look at your 8th house and the 8th house Lord. If the 8th house Lord is in the 5th, that's superb because you've got that knowledge and you're good at teaching it too, and you can teach yourself astrology. That's the Lord of the 8th in the 5th house. So what it is yes, you absolutely want to have good 8th house because that's secret knowledge, but 12th house also. The 12th house is about secret understanding of a very spiritual kind too. So having Mars in your 8th house, Mars in your 12th house, that could be one such absolute sign, okay? But there's so many factors. But yeah, look at your 8th house, look at your 12th house, look at Mars. And finally, you have to see about Ketu. Those were the barking dogs there making me think about Ketu. Why? Because you say meant to be an astrologer. Astrological knowledge doesn't just start up in one life. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. anything that you're passionate about, anything that you really grips your soul is coming from past life. So you need to look at what Ketu is doing, because the indications of Ketu are very important also. Have a check of my videos and the whole playlist on your Ketu position. So I hope that was helpful to you. So I hope that was a useful video for you all. Sub below if you haven't subbed already, and don't forget, keep on posting questions. And also, I haven't finished answering the questions which you've already posted, and I will be catching up with those very soon, like I say. Goodbye for now, and God bless everyone.